It is the sixth day of the Russian invasion into Ukraine, but how did we get to this point? Action News Now reporter Defet Serrato spoke with a history professor at Chico State about it, and here's what she shared.
Kate Transchel has studied Russia and Ukraine for more than 4 decades now.
I am a professor emeritus at Chico State.
She took me back in time to learn how we got to this point in the Russian invasion. We begin in the late 1700s and early 1800s when Russia was in control of what is now Ukraine.
Ukraine has different ethnicities. The populations down there were enslaved, serfed.
It wasn't until the 1917 Russian Civil War when Ukrainians took a stand.
In the middle of that conflict, Ukrainians made a bid for Ukrainian independence from the Soviet Empire. It failed miserably, but it triggered a really strong nationalistic movement that the Soviets tried to kill from the 1920s on.
Fast forward to August 24th, 1991, when Ukraine declared itself its own country, just 4 months before the Soviet Union collapsed. But Russia still coveted Ukraine.
Ukraine was always the breadbasket of the Soviet Union. It's a very rich agricultural area. It's also an industrial center in the east and a mining center. Russia's always had an interest in having some kind of control, political and economic, over Ukraine.
Transchel says from 1990 to 2014, Ukraine's presidents were mostly pro-Russia.
The Ukrainians voted in a pro-Western president once, and he ended up being poisoned and forced out of power. And a guy by the name of Yanukovych was put in by Moscow.
Yanukovych signed a declaration that Ukraine would not enter into any trade agreements, only with Russia.
The vast majority of Ukrainians want to be a democratic, Western-style democracy out from under Moscow's control.
In response, Ukrainians held large protests, which led to a revolution, forcing Yanukovych out of office and out of the country. In 2014, Ukraine elected a pro-West president to lead the country. Around this time, Russia invaded Ukraine, claiming it as theirs.
The Russian Black Sea Fleet was given permission by Ukraine to be housed at Crimea. The Crimea is critically important to the Russian Navy.
6 people died in the Crimean invasion, and Transchel says that invasion set up Putin's attempted takeover of Ukraine today.
He understood immediately that the United States and NATO is not going to meet him with military response. And so since 2014, Putin has been stockpiling resources in the event that he gets more sanctions for another invasion.
That was Defet Serrato reporting. Now, Transchel also tells Action News Now Crimea did belong to the Russian Federation in the past, but Russia gave the peninsula back to Ukraine in the early 1950s.